one of their dream projects was to create Black Smosh.
I don't know if I want to have kids. I see like the financial burden and I'm like, dude, I might break the baby.
Because of how fast the internet goes, there is no sense of let's look back and analyze what the reality was and what it meant.
Yeah, I want some hairs to be in there when I put deodorant on being like, man the shields!
What? I'm gonna start this little timer right here. Gadoosh! All right, now it's going. Hey everyone, welcome back to this. I don't want to say welcome back.
Man, also he just started with a sigh over here too. Like he starts talking and she immediately sighs.
You know, this is episode 5. We still haven't gotten all the kinks worked out.
Yeah.
Hello everyone. I am your host, Ian Hecox. Who am I with today?
Oh, I'm Courtney Miller.
Are you asking that because I'm supposed to introduce myself?
Yes, please.
Oh,
Yeah,
hi.
guess.
Yes, I'm Matthew Patrick, better known online as MatPat,
Ooh.
the biggest nerd on YouTube.
Oh, wow. That's
Saying
those
a
are
lot.
some lofty claims.
Maybe that's a kink we need to get out. Maybe we should introduce our guests when we have a guest, like for them. Is that?
You know, I just don't want to talk for them. You know?
Yeah.
It actually means he doesn't want to do the research in
I don't wanna-
advance. That's the
He
strategy.
forgot your
Who
name.
are you?
He forgot your name.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Matthew Patrick?
I don't want to.
Maddie
I don't want to
Pats?
assume anything.
that's
all right.
nice.
You know.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Some of you people might know his channel, Game Theory. Also, there's GT Live and movie theory.
See, this is why he has to have the guest actually introduce, you know, because I have 3 channels. Like, how
Yes.
difficult is that to remember?
Yeah. Do you know all our channels?
Right?
Smosh
Main.
movies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
movies.
Good job, guys.
Welcome back. Welcome to the
Welcome to the
SmoshCast.
show, SmoshCast. There it is. Maybe we should interview Ian about the stuff that he actually is supposed to be
quiz
doing.
him on his own.
Right? So I have the Game Theorists.
The Game Theorists,
I have
yeah.
GT Live, which is our live stream channel, and then we have the Film Theorists. See, film.
Film.
I like
Game,
that one.
film. Yeah.
But then,
Smart.
so does it ever bother you that your channel's called The Game Theorists,
Okay.
but your show is Game Theory, right?
It is. That's correct.
I don't know. I feel like because that's like Game Theorist is who you guys are,
Right.
and then the show is Game Theory.
Yeah,
right?
the whole concept of it was
But when you started it, were there more than one person?
No, but when YouTube allowed you the opportunity to kind of choose your own moniker or like do the kind of the custom URLs for channels,
Yeah.
we had partner shows on the channel. And really the channel's whole premise was this idea of being able to spotlight multiple critical thinkers about the genres that we were covering, right? So because we were fortunate enough to get a large audience fairly early on, we were built on this idea of, hey, let's give like-minded creators who are doing edutainment-style content that is critically thinking about all your favorite franchises a platform to get more views, earn more money, things like that. Hence the idea of not just naming it Game Theory or Film Theory, but the theorists, because it's a group of collective thinkers. It's a community.
Okay.
It's a people.
It's also impossible to
place.
spell. So
Yeah. I'm not a good speller.
confessions with Ian.
Cool, man. Yeah.
Strangely, when we met, you were working for the same company that we were under.
This is true.
And it was really strange because I had seen Game Theory before, and then I didn't find out until like much later when you were still working there. I was like, wait, hold on, what? The dude from the Game Theory works at our job? Wait, this doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense. What did you do exactly? Like, what was your title there?
I was stealthily undercover, spying
Whoa,
on you the
secret
whole time. That was it.
agent.
Makes sense.
I was like an insert spy there,
Nice.
and then taking it back for my own betterment.
You probably
Wow.
could have chosen a better channel.
He was the
than
agent.
us.
Smosh. I don't know. I felt like we were like basically doing the
Yeah.
exact same thing.
Okay.
You guys were singing Pokemon parodies, and I was talking about Pokemon being racist at the time. So, you know,
heck
sa-
yeah.
exactly the
Just
same thing.
Fit right in.
Right?
Wait,
Match
which
made in heaven.
Pokemon are racist?
Jinx, obviously.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh,
They-
yeah.
And then they had to
Yeah.
redesign her skin to make it purple.
Did they really
That's
do that?
right.
They did, right? Yeah.
Wait, it's a
I do
her?
remember seeing the.
I
art.
mean, all Pokemon are kind of in a questionable gender
Oh, I was thinking
Oh,
Mr.
yeah.
Mime for some reason. I got Mr. Mime and Jinx mixed up Because they're both, yeah, okay, yeah, Jinx, ooh, yeah. I'm thinking about it now.
The levels
Yeah.
of realization that are happening
Yeah.
right now are pretty stellar.
Just
Yeah.
images
Because
in his
you have
head.
the skin, you have the lips, you have all sorts of stuff. And the funny thing is, Jinx was never meant to be racist to begin with. Like, it was a parody of this trend called gangro, which was a very popular kind of female style for people in a very specific part of Japan at the time who bleached their hair very like bright yellow or white, kept it long, who did a lot of excessive tanning to make their skin look darker. And who would do like big designs, big bold lips.
Sounds like an Orange County mom.
Yeah, or a clown.
Yeah.
One and the same.
One and the same.
Because, I mean, obviously, like, blackface isn't something that Japanese people really, it wasn't like a part of their culture. Like, they wouldn't have really known about it.
Right. And so to the outside world,
Yeah.
seeing this character, they're like, oh my gosh, this is reminiscent of all this terrible stuff from the past.
Yeah.
But to Japan, it's like, no, this is just a commentary on this fashion trend that was recently popular. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the SmoshCast, where in the first 5 minutes we've talked about racism.
And I think we solved it.
We
I
did.
think we
fixed it.
Congratulations, guys.
We did it.
Handshake.
Good job, everyone.
did
We
it.
solved
Done it. Shaking
racism.
hands.
Sorry, I had a left hand handshake.
Ew.
That was
That was gross.
weird.
Uncomfortable.
I'm left-handed,
sorry.
and that was gross.
Right
I'm
here.
sorry.
Let me do the reach over.
Nice.
okay. Thank you.
There you go.
Cute.
For the listeners that aren't watching on video, we had a really bad handshake, but we fixed it.
Good job. Good job.
Way to use those context clues,
Yeah.
listeners.
Yeah.
The SmoshCast really making you work for the visuals that are going on.
Right.
Yes. So anyway, I worked at your company.
Yeah. And you consulted us a few times on our channel.
I did, yeah. So basically, in the early days of YouTube, not only was I kind of using my own channel in the background and learning and kind of growing on YouTube that way, but I was also a digital video expert. I was an analytics guy. I was using the learnings that I was coming up with off of my own work on YouTube to help other channel creators grow their businesses, understand their analytics, and basically try to grow faster.
Right.
Nice. Was I there? Were you working there in how long were you working there for?
I was there I was in kind of that MCN space for about 2.5 years.
And that was because I started working at Defy in 2015.
Right.
Were you there?
No, but I was part of the conversations that were leading up to in 2015 you might have been coming in right as I was kind of like wrapping things up, but I was a big part of the conversations about the whole Smosh rebrand and about how do you bring in new characters and personalities, and is that a good idea? Can the channel survive without Ian and Anthony?
How did you feel about that? How did you feel about them wanting to bring in new people and changing stuff? I really want to know.
It was one of those things that like the ability to succeed was slim.
Yeah.
Like
Making changes like that is wild.
Yeah, and you have tons of examples in the past on YouTube of channels who had tried it and it never worked, right? Like
Ray William Johnson.
That's probably the best example
Yeah.
out there where, he tried to hand off hosting duties of =3 and none of the hosts ever really caught on. And so the smart thing that you guys did, and the thing that I think all of us internally who were talking about it were recommending, was you have to make it a very slow, gradual, extended process.
And the thing is, like, we wanted to make it a slower thing. We wanted to make it a more natural thing. Like, we get to know Shane, Courtney, Olivia, Noah, Keith. We wanted to get to know them better before putting them in more content, but Defy was so adamant about like, no, you guys need to put them in all the videos immediately. And we're like, well, that's not how YouTube works. Like we need to make this a real thing. We actually need to forge real friendships with these people before we start putting them in all the videos. So, I think the transition would have made a lot more sense to the viewers if we would have been given the real time. But Defy, obviously, they're like, well, we're paying them money, so we need to have them in every video.
Right. And not just forming friendships with you guys as a cast, but also like
us with the fans.
Yeah, exactly. Forming friendships with the community around the channel, the audience, because so much of YouTube is built on this idea of like, I know who these people are. I have an established relationship with them because I'm seeing them week after week after week. And I know their likes, their dislikes, their personalities, what they find funny. And so for all of a sudden there to be like, and we're the new guys on the block. Hey, look at us. We're fun and quirky, and don't you love us?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
It doesn't work.
There's so many TV shows. I'll use Chuck as an example. Weirdly, no one's going to understand this. But it's like sometimes like TV shows will be like, here's these new younger, like in Chuck, it was like there was these secret agents, right? And then the CIA or whoever they're working for brings in these new, hip, younger secret agents, and they're seen as like the bad because it's like, ew, new, gross, get them out of here. And like
They brought in a new Chuck.
They brought, yeah, pretty
Chuck
much.
2.
They were just like, here's our new young agents, and they was like totally like butting heads, like enemies, and it's like it makes sense that like that's the instant reaction for a fan when they see like all of a sudden this new team of people, and like the content was we were kind of separated sometimes, so it was like definitely I'm sure the reaction.
Yeah, it probably felt like an invasion to some people. To for myself, it was something that needed to happen because in order for our content to evolve, it couldn't just always be myself and Anthony. Like two guys hanging out in a house together. Like we did a sketch starting with Anthony and I sitting on a couch probably 200 times.
I would love to know the exact amount.
Yeah. Well, somebody can go in and research it.
That's a film.
Yeah,
See,
you
that
can
would fall
go
on that
for it.
other channel that you don't know about
Yeah.
or watch. So,
Wait, so did you?
Movie theory, right?
Movie
theorists.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Movie dreams.
Ooh, beautiful.
So did you have a hand in like the strategy at all, or like when we brought in like? I just want to know in depth a little bit more.
Man,
like,
my secret role behind the scenes.
I know you're the Agent Cody Banks of Defy. Like,
Oh, God.
sorry, I'm forgetting the weirdest, oldest, most obscure references.
These pop culture references are gold right now. I mean, it's interesting, and it's funny to hear Ian talk about like Defy, like the higher ups at Defy wanting to fast forward that process and kind of like
just jam it down their throats.
Yeah, shoehorn it in as quickly as possible because this was the same group of people who are also promoting the idea of doing Black Smosh.
Oh yeah.
Like
oh, God.
unironically wanting to do Black Smosh.
Yep.
Which I wasn't sure. Like, had you had those conversations with the team? Clearly, based on your reaction, you did.
there was somebody higher up. I'm not gonna say their name. For many years,
this
one
is
of
a
their
true story.
one of their dream projects was to create Black Smosh, which what they wanted to do was cast a group of black people to create, shall we say, urban comedy. They were like, well, there's this whole other audience out there, so we just need to create Black Smosh.
Well, yeah, I mean, basically the thought process of this person in the meetings that we were having was, well, we have this back catalog of funny scripts, so if we just, change out the two white dudes for different demographics, we have tons of new verticals, and you reuse the same scripts, but just kind of like mix it up a little bit. And his first spinoff was always going to be Black Smosh, followed by, female Smosh, gay Smosh. Like, it was bad.
Yeah, that's rough.
Like that is
so rough.
truly spilling the tea.
Every time they brought it up, and that's really funny. I've never mentioned the whole Black Smosh thing.
Probably smart of you to not mention it.
Yeah, but every time they brought it up, it was just like, no.
And here's another weird freaking reference. Hairspray, how there's like Negro Day on the dancing show. That doesn't, and I'm sorry, that's rough. But like it's just that I get that vibe when I hear about what they were trying to do.
Well, and the thing was, the first time, because again, I'm this young guy who, has only been working at this company for about a year, but I'm like the guy who understands YouTube. I'm the guy who's been able to build up my own channel in the background. Like, I was the representative of like the digital video ecosystem and optimization, right? And so I'm in these rooms with all these traditional media guys who had been working in TV for years and had, decent levels of success there. Suddenly now, like, let's figure out ways to capitalize off of these brands that we have and this and that. And he tosses out this idea. And at first, like, everyone, me and a couple other people in the room are like, haha, that's an idea. But really, but they were so serious about it was the thing. Like, they legitimately thought that there was no problem with it and that it was totally fine. And of course, at that point, the conversation fundamentally shifts to like, oh no, you're taking it, like, absolutely not. Do not do this. This is horrific for so many reasons.
Were they wanting to call it that? Like, actually?
Well, that was always just the sort
the
of
working title?
Yeah, the working title. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with two black dudes doing comedy. Obviously, Key and Peele was probably one of the greatest sketch shows ever made, but it wasn't for the sake of representation. It was for the sake of like, let's just get this other thing going to appeal to this other group because we don't believe that two white guys are going to be enjoyed by black people.
Yeah. This is actually why I'm shocked to hear that you also know this, because to me, when that was brought up in the room, I'm like, this is unbelievable. I can't believe that someone would actually legitimately think of this as an idea. And so now to hear that it was also brought up to you, and you also had to shoot it down.
Yeah, multiple times.
Like, it's unbelievable to me.
Yeah. It kind of became a running joke about this person because it's just ludicrous.
Right?
It doesn't make any sense.
It's amazing.
Wild.
Yeah. So there you go. I do remember the other joke that he would toss out when it came to like some of the other verticals, and obviously bringing up like gay Smosh, LGBT Smosh, because that's a whole new community. The joke was, though, that they already had gay Smosh because you and Anthony were already hosts.
Yeah, Anthony,
Nice.
baby.
Did they toss that joke your way?
Probably.
Okay.
There was another.
Just so we have full transparency here of what was being said behind the scenes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, you got to keep those fan fictions going.
Sure.
Oh, they never stop. They haven't stopped.
You know, it's unfortunate. Like, you guys had all your relationships. All my fan fictions are me adopting children. It's actually really sweet.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Until you get to the part where my wife ends up dying a horrific death.
Oh my
in
God, they
almost every
always
single
do
one.
that.
Yep.
They always do that. I've dipped into the fan fiction sites and I've seen some of it because I'm just curious. And we have the videos where we actually take them, script them out, and act them out for videos.
Uh-huh.
And there always is like a drama. Like there was like a Shortney one where it's like, okay, whatever, the romance me and Shane, the romance happens, and then I get cancer, and it's like, what? The story could have just ended. Like, dude.
No.
Sad.
That was generally the theme with a lot of the fan fictions, where Anthony and I they wrote our girlfriends in there, and then one of our girlfriends would die, and then he would come, like, let's say his girlfriend died, Anthony would come to me and I would comfort him, and then our embrace would hold a little bit longer. And then hand would move up. And we'd brush our cheeks against each other.
Ooh, calm down.
I mean,
And then it'd always get hot and heavy.
It's getting intense.
So yeah, death is a common theme with romantic
That's
fan
so
fictions.
uncomfortable to read that about yourself, man.
That's a little weird.
I think it's beautiful.
So would the fan be the child that you adopted?
Yes.
That they wrote?
Yes, usually they were in some equivalent of an orphanage.
Okay.
At which
Yeah.
point, kind of Annie style.
Yeah.
Tossing out classic references here. Annie the
Yeah.
musical, and I would come in and save the day. Like, either I wasn't able to have kids or I just wanted to adopt a child.
Wow.
And sometimes Stephanie would die before I adopted the child. Sometimes she would die after. Like, it would vary. Sometimes I was adopting the child because of the sadness that I felt over the loss of Stephanie, and so I needed a child in my
Weird.
life. But yeah, and then the two of us would go off on adventures together, and I would teach them science, basically.
That's
and then
so
usually how it would
cute.
boil down is that, and then Matthew and I would go off to the museum and learn about science.
That's adorable.
Yeah.
So like, but after the mourning period, you guys definitely boned, right?
Whoa!
It's a child, Ian.
Oh, it's a child?
Adopted
Yeah.
child. Were you? Welcome to the
Yeah.
podcast, Ian.
Well, I figured like he raised them, and then I don't know.
I mean,
there's worse fan fictions out
There
there.
are.
Trust me.
a lot of my fan
Yeah.
fictions stood incomplete or, were in the early stages
Okay.
of completion. So I don't know where they would go
Yeah.
from there. Welcome to SmoshCast, ladies and gentlemen, where we have covered racism, and now we're covering, a very topical Michael
Yeah.
Jackson style
Yeah.
child predators.
Oh,
This
God.
is great.
But
Let's not get into Michael Jackson again, please.
I will say it's very weird. like obviously we have scripts that are written like where we're as ourselves, so we see that normally. But like when you see fan fiction about yourself, like one time there was one that like they said I smelled like vanilla, and like I literally wore like at the time was wearing vanilla lotion. Not right now. What do I got on? I got like don't smell my armpit.
You smell like
Hairspray?
No, like secret deodorant.
Weird, because I wear Old Spice, so that's
really. Yeah, you're not so much spicy as you are like lilac.
Male or female Old Spice?
Male.
Nice. Yeah.
Just it's the only thing to keep up with my sweaty pits, man.
I know, dude.
Hashtag not spawn.
Well, you saw my armpits yesterday.
Yeah,
I got some
dude.
hairy pits. Yo.
I didn't know that guys needed to trim it.
Yeah, I trimmed my armpit hair.
Your armpit hair.
Because, like, there's so much hair. Like, I don't think I've trimmed my armpit hair in, like, 2 months or so. And it's really long.
It's, like, longer than your normal hair on your head.
I mean,
like, pretty close, man.
Yeah, you might be right.
Yeah, your hair's really short now. You don't have that bowl cut anymore.
Yeah, that's true. But, and when you have all that hair, it doesn't aid the coverage of the deodorant, you know?
Yeah,
'cause
it blocks it.
Yeah.
It's a shield.
It's like,
I'm amazed by this. So what is the appropriate length of armpit hair?
well,
Because I have armpit hair, but I have never trimmed because I've never thought of it as excessively long. But
some
now,
people, I don't grow pit hair on my right side at all, and my left side's like a few hairs. Like I don't know what's wrong with me.
You won
but
the
he,
genetic
however,
lottery.
stole all the hair. Like, can I have some maybe? Because I would like.
Please.
would
want
you like
armpit?
armpit hair?
Yeah, I want some hairs to be in there when I put deodorant on, being like, man the shields, keeping the deodorant off your face.
What?
That's what
Like
I
little
see.
like little troops in your army
Yeah, man.
fighting against pit sweat.
Sometimes I feel lonely, and I just
Yeah.
And hairs on your body are the only thing that are going to keep you company. Do we need to talk?
maybe.
I feel like this is a fan fiction rating to happen.
Oh no, no! But for real, the person guessed my correct smell at the time. It was weird because I did smell like vanilla.
Wow. You're like, man, they know.
They know.
They know me.
But then they're like, and then she kissed Noah's ear, and I'm like, no,
You're not an ear kisser?
not Noah,
Oh.
not my coworker.
You're fine with ears, just not coworkers'
Yeah,
ears.
heck
All
yeah.
right, I get that.
Give ears kisses. This is so weird. I'm gonna go.
No, please stay.
So
I based on the professions of loneliness that you just had, it sounds like this is the only
Yeah.
human contact you have for today.
Maybe that's
so
why I read the fan
I was
fiction.
gonna say, maybe like, please stay in the company of our armpit hair.
Yeah.
But we haven't gotten to the core of the issue here, which is what is the appropriate length of armpit
Oh,
hair?
yes.
Like,
Oh.
Ian, so
Right.
where is your on your person? Show me the length of your hair normally, and then let's get a sense of like where you trim it down to, because presumably you're trimming it down to the appropriate length, right?
right, yeah. So I use clippers.
Okay. Yes.
And I just go down to the skin.
So you take it all the way down.
Right, but I go
Wow.
I go to the direction of the hair. So like on the upper part of my armpit,
the grain.
goes upwards,
Yes.
and on the lower part of my armpit, the grain goes downwards. So for the upper part, I have to shave up,
Okay.
and then on the lower part, I have to shave down.
You have electric trimmers. You don't use scissors?
What?
I thought you meant
You
clippers.
think I
What
use
madness is
scissors?
this?
When you said clippers, I thought you meant like snip, snip, snip.
Woman, are you mad?
You don't use a tree trimmer?
Right. The first time I heard the term clippers, I was very confused. It's
sorry.
very confusing if you're not familiar with the idea
Yeah.
that clippers is just like a glorified razor.
Yeah, I guess so.
Like
An
when I think
electric,
clip,
an
yeah.
electric
Yeah.
razor.
Yeah,
like
when I
the-
think clipper, I think of like a scissor
Like
or
clip, clip, clip.
or a shear of
Yeah.
some form.
yeah.
But no, it's
you use shears, man?
Well, clearly you guys don't frequent hairdressing salons enough.
Yeah, clearly
You don't
not.
know the lexicon of a
Clearly
not.
salon.
oh, I mean I learned it. I learned it at a certain point. Trust me, I'm a frequenter of sports clips.
Yeah.
But
I got a lot of body hair. As I grow older,
dude.
it starts sprouting up in weird ass places.
I feel like since I started working here, your tummy has gotten much more hairy.
yeah, it has.
I don't know how you
We-
never know how I know this stuff. I
We
used to
see each other
How do
like half naked
Yeah.
quite a lot.
Yeah.
Never fully though. Just want to put it out there.
just gonna let that
We've
one
never
sit
seen
for-
each other.
It's mostly him.
full-blown
He
nakies.
walks around in a diaper.
You weren't supposed to tell everyone about that.
It's all right, no shame. It's okay.
Don't
I have a
kink
person
shame.
in my life who walks around in a diaper too these days.
That's true, but
true.
it's a little bit more acceptable for that because you have a little teeny tiny baby.
Oh yeah.
That is true.
How is the babby?
Oh my gosh, it's cool. It's very cool to have a babby. It's wild, the little potato.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable how difficult it is for the first 3 to 4 months. And it's still hard after that, certainly. But it's just fascinating to watch how much personality they have weeks after being born. Like, it's immediate. Like, you can tell how independent he is. You can tell that he doesn't like to cuddle so much, but he does, but he's very eager to learn and teach himself. He loves books. He
likes to eat them.
He's 8 months at this point. Yeah.
Oh my
Does he just kind of chew on the pages?
No, it's wild. So like, it's part of our nightly routine to like read him a story or two before he goes to bed. But like, we'll take him out in the afternoon or something to like a story time, or where like play with tambourines, do some basic like wave the scarf around. But as soon as and he has fun with those, but as soon as like the book comes out and the person at the front of the room starts reading, like he will actively like crawl to the front of the room and just be like locked in. It's very clear that he's in the early stages of being a teacher's pet, and I could not be more proud of him.
Nerd.
Absolutely.
Wow.
You birthed a freaking nerd, dude.
Thank goodness.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Did you always want kids, or was this just like was this a revelation you had when you met your lovely wife Stephanie?
Wow. Yeah. No, I've always wanted kids. I've always wanted a kid. I don't know if I've ever wanted to, because both Steph and I are only children, and I'm like, you know what? That's a good amount. I had a good upbringing.
I was gonna say, because usually only childs turn out to be little, but
how did I turn out, Ian?
Moving on.
Hey, it was him, not me, right? I had 6 siblings growing up. So
she
I don't
had
even
way
know.
too many siblings.
6. Where did you fall in the line of 6?
I'm number 5, so I have 2 little brothers.
Wow. Okay, so I know that in like a family of 3, right? 3 kids, because my mom was in a family of 3 and she was the middle child. The oldest child is like most responsible and gets a lot of attention because they're number 1. Number 2 is like the forgotten child who feels kind of left out because they're sandwiched between the other 2,
Sure.
the first one and the third one, who ends up being the baby of the family,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
So the middle child's kind of forgotten and like has to feel like they have to prove themselves or whatever.
Yeah, man.
In 6, what is the dynamic like?
So there's 7 of us total, and there was like only a couple years a gap in a lot of those. So like I don't really know. Like there was the top 2, Cammie and Casey, born like the top 2.
Say all their names, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay,
wait.
Unless
You don't want to share that on the podcast. Do you really? Do you want to put names out there?
First names are. I mean, is that bad? What do you
Man,
think?
have I crossed
What do you
it?
think?
I
up to
love
you.
that we've talked about everything from like pedophilia and racism, but it's like, ooh, names.
It's not hard to find them, you
Right.
know.
All right.
On my Instagram, I'll just say their first names.
Sure.
Whatever. So it goes Cammie, Casey, Kathy, Carrie, Courtney, Clark,
Oh
Connor.
my gosh, they're the Kardashians.
I know, but they're K's and C's. Okay, so we did it like different. And first, so
Did you do it first?
I don't know. Cammie, I think we did it first. In terms of age, actually, I don't know.
Are you calling out the Kardashians right now as stealing
Copycats.
your bit?
Copycats, CK. Or wait, CC.
Oh God. You remember when I said we can't spell?
I really should go. I should go. But okay, so there was only a couple years gaps in a bunch of them. Cammie and Casey, it was like a year or 2, and then there's a couple year, like a larger gap, and then it was Kathy and Carrie. It's like literally less than a year or a year, and then there's 5 years, and then me, and then like 3+ years, and then Clark and Connor, who were like a year or 2 apart. So there was a gap, and I was kind of a loner a lot of the time. Carrie was technically the middle child, and she definitely like I think at some point we all played every role, because I was like, and because my parents were divorced, so a lot of times like in joint custody it would be like me and my younger brothers at my mom's house. So I was the oldest, but I was also the youngest for a while, and I was treated like the middle child. So it's like I really don't know like what the full dynamic was.
And as like some went off to college or whatever, then other people became the oldest, of the house, or the youngest.
Yeah.
Or
My
not
oldest
the
siblings like raised me like a lot. Like it's and it just all tapered down. I think Connor, as each kid popped out, we had to kind of raise ourselves a little bit more, because there was like just too many freaking kids, man. Like Connor, I don't know how he made it. I don't know how he did it. Like there was too many of us. We're all dealing with ourselves. Like he definitely had to like struggle and like learn by watching us.
I've heard with like large families, if you factor in like the dinner table kind of thing, it's just a battle royale for food.
It can
Like
be.
where you just grab whatever you possibly can,
Yeah.
or else you won't eat.
Yeah, there was times where we had to like be like, "Hey, that was my role," like stuff like that. But now my dad has a habit. He also works at a fire station, so like he's used to cooking for large groups. He always has. So like he always cooks way too much food now when it's like only a few of us over for dinner.
Aww.
Yeah,
How often are all of you together at this point?
so rarely, like maybe a couple times a year, like all of us, because some people are on the East Coast.
Right, sure.
Yeah, so it's pretty rare.
Do you feel close to every single, like, how close do you feel to, like, when there is such a huge gap in ages? Mm-hmm. Do you feel really close to all your brothers and sisters, or?
Growing up, there was definitely like buddying up, and with a lot of siblings, things get cliquey. But like especially in these recent years, since we're all kind of becoming adults and we're more on an equal plane, it's so weird. And I feel like I didn't realize until recently how it's really this dynamic that I grew up with is something a lot of people have no idea what it's like, because like my brothers that are younger than me are now like all adults. Like Clark just turned 21, and like now we can go on like outings together. Like it's like it's a party now when we hang out. It's not so much like it's like we all feel like equals.
There is something weird about like the larger families. For some reason, the youngest child never goes beyond. Like for me, it's hard to wrap my head around not seeing them as like a small child.
Yeah, I still
Do
call
you know
them
what
my
I mean?
little brothers.
Yeah, because like they'll never be like quite like an adult to you. Like I had a family friends. They had 3 kids, and the youngest always, like, despite him being, I don't know, 28 now, he's still just like the little one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
he's
that.
the
I'll never
whelp.
be able to get that out of my head.
Yeah, it's nuts. And like I don't know if I want to have kids.
Right.
Like the way that I've seen how much, because there were so many of us, and we were very pretty poor, not too bad, but like growing up, it was like so many kids to provide
of
for.
course,
sure.
And so like I see like the financial burden, and I'm like, dude, I might break the baby. I don't know. I'm scared, man.
You need
so
something to pour your love into, though.
Yeah, I mean, I did have.
She's a very affectionate person. You
I'm
just
a
need
companion
something.
person.
You need like a rock.
Or just
pet
more
rock.
armpit hair
Oh yeah.
on it to pour your love into.
need. I just want to braid it.
A baby or armpit hair. One
Yeah.
of the two.
Yeah, they're pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, basically. Same amount of
Just a
care, same
little
financial
tuft of
burden,
hair.
you know. Just
So-
just slather some antiperspirant on.
So you've always wanted to have a kid. I don't understand what that feels like.
I think it's just one of those things where, like, I had such a positive family experience. I always have gravitated toward, like, teaching and wanting to, you know, inspire or help out kids. Like, even back when I was much younger, in, like, middle school and high school, I taught swim lessons. You know, and that idea of just, like, interacting and having fun with younger kids and being able to, like, show them the world and teach them things and watch them learn and grow and experience stuff is something that I've always felt passionate about. And so the idea of being able to teach, you know, a son or daughter of my own about the world and, you know, hey, here's the good stuff to know, here's the bad stuff, and, like, here's, you know, the things that I learned from personal
Wow.
experience, like I wish I had known moving, you know, when I had done it.
Yeah.
I think that's just a really cool thing to be a part of someone's life and watch them grow.
Wow.
I will say, as my life went on, and as, you know, we got closer to kind of that decision, there was that thought of, like, is there enough time in life to make this happen? Because I mean, like, we all understand, like, we are busy all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, running our own business, creating content. Like, LA is this hustle bustle of nonstop. You have your hustle and you have your side hustle, and you're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
people are going round the clock.
Yeah.
And I did have, you know, this period of time where, you know, I had to self-reflect around, do I still, like, yes, this is something that I grew up wanting, and yes, this is something I thought would be really good for, you know, for me and for a kid, and I think I would make a good father. But with my life where it is now, can I still prioritize a child in the way that I would want to and do this right? Because the thing is, like, the worst possible thing you can do is to do it the wrong way. And now all of
Yeah.
a sudden, like, you resent the child for slowing you down in life, or you're upset about, you know, you live with regrets of like, I could have been somebody, but then I had a kid and then it slowed me, you know, all this stuff of, you know, there's a lot wrapped up into it. And if you're having a child and bringing a life into the world who is dependent on you, it's your responsibility to make sure that that kid is doing as best as he possibly can, right? And so, you know, as we got closer to kind of like, hey, are we doing this or not? Like, there was that moment of like, hey, is this the right time? You know, can we fit it in? But I think that sort of reflection's important.
Oh yeah.
If you're kind of jumping into it, but yeah, at the end of the day,
thinking about that is already like, yeah, you're a good parent.
And you certainly have more the luxury of deciding that and getting the time to decide that. A lot of and honestly, like nobody has the time for to have kids. It's just kind of it just happens and then you make it work, right?
Well, if it's not planned, yeah.
Right. Well, even if it is planned, like you still like it's a big commitment. You just make it work, and I know you guys will obviously make it work, and that's really cool. That it's almost you should have like kid theory, you know. You get to try all your theories on child development.
It's true.
on this living thing, and you get to see what it becomes.
As a baby shower gift, someone actually got me a book that is experimenting on your baby.
Oh god.
What?
Which is that sounds.
I hope it doesn't have a German name on the author.
Yeah, by Franz Schnau. Yeah, that's great. It dates back to like World War II era. Funny enough.
Strange.
Yeah, it's odd. No, but basically, what it's very cool. It's a compilation of famous historical studies. Done in completely safe ways on babies to learn about their development, how they process the world, and you know where they hit certain milestones, all based on like actual scientific research, right? So one of the simplest and earliest ones you can do, which is really fascinating, is this idea of putting 3 dots into like a triangular formation onto a piece of paper, right? And you show the baby those 3 dots, like from birth. It's like from month 1, and you show them the 3 dots. If they're 2 dots on top and 1 dot below, similar to the eyes and mouth or eyes and nose of a face, they will watch it and like look at it and process it longer than if you actually flip the dots upside down and show them 1 dot on top and 2 on the bottom. Because humans, we're very inefficient. Like having a baby has taught me how
we're dumb.
We are very inefficient. Like it is a terrible design, quite honestly. It is, you know.
How would you design a human, Matt?
Well, for one, I would make sure that like the teeth aren't coming in like 8 months into their life, so that way it's like, oh my gosh, I'm just learning how to eat things. Oh my gosh, there's tremendous pain in my mouth as these things that probably should have been there to begin with suddenly jut out through my mouth hole.
The fact that I can't run as soon as I'm out of a vagina, I'm frankly mad.
I mean, like giraffes can do it. Why can't we?
Right. Get good, humanity.
It is very bad how like the baby can't even support their head when they're out. Like that's rough. Like if we were to be, if everything, I don't know. I wish I was a giraffe.
Well, even stuff like when babies first start learning how to use their hands, and I'm doing this gesture of like twitching and stuff because that's what it looks like. They can't get sleep for that period of like a month and a half because they're constantly like waking themselves up by smacking themselves in the head.
Oh, because like the muscles are...
Yeah, they're all so like overstimulated,
like
over twitchy.
Whoa.
And so, you know, that's why that like first 4-month period is so hard because they're learning all this stuff. And to the baby's credit, they're like, I'm excited to learn these things and get control over my life. At 8 months, he's getting really good at crawling and also getting good at like supporting himself on his legs and walking and doing like walking motions. It's really awesome. But again, his sleep is being interrupted because he's like, I'm so excited about this new skill.
Yeah.
I want to practice it and, you know, get up on my knees and sit up on my own and this, but it keeps waking him up. So I would probably design away stuff like that.
Wow.
Okay.
But it's wild to see just how cool and rewarding it is as a process. Like once they start like developing their likes and dislikes and having agency over their life, and you start like, you know, at this point I can have a conversation with him where he's learning different like vocalizations, and so he'll be like ah, and I'll be like ah, and he'll see it and recognize it, and he'll be like ah, and I'm like ah, and he's like ah, like it's actually this back and forth.
So
it's
you
wild.
you birthed a dolphin.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Can I just say, like, the leadership and like father figure, like I don't know, it's not complex, but I think that's really cool. It's like you kind of have the perfect profession for that because like you technically have like millions of children that kind of depend on you in a way.
Shucks.
And like it's like almost too perfect because like you are able to utilize that influence and need to like help other people learn and stuff every day. Like that's really cool and perfect, I think.
It sounds, that's very sweet of you. Thank you. Actually, it's, I don't know. It sounds cheesy to say this, but it is, and it sounds like, oh, this is a good PR line or whatever. But like when I was younger, right, I saw the impact that like your everyday actions could have on the world around you. I had a friend who almost committed suicide and was on the verge of committing suicide. He was new into the high school, and I was just kind of like this bubbly kid who like talked too much to everyone. And so he would come into like choir practice, and I'd be like, "Hey, good morning, welcome," and we would sit up and talk or whatever. I fast forward like 3 years later, and he like confesses to me like those conversations were the thing that prevented me from taking my own life. Like I was coming into high school because ready to commit suicide because I had a really hard time in middle school. Everyone made fun of me. I was this awkward kid, and you actually like treating me like a human made such a huge amount of difference and actually saved my life. And that was like such a huge moment for me because it's like, to me, that was just any other conversation. Like it was literally the base level of like, hey, here's another person in the room. We are in the room together alone at the same, like you talk to them, like you just, you're nice. You share pleasantries. And it really convinced me of that idea of like, you pay it forward, the butterfly effect, you do something nice for someone and it pays off down the line. Right.
Totally.
And so my goal has always been, back then when they were like, what do you want to do when you grow up and what are you looking to do? I wanted to be an actor. But at the end of the day, like my goal in a lot of cases was, I know I'm not going to cure cancer. I know I'm not going to do, something that is revolutionary on the side of, solving some big world problem. But what I can do is at least like be nice and kind and supportive of the people in my immediate vicinity, and hopefully that butterfly effects outward and makes the world a better place. I want the world to be slightly better because I was a part of it. And at this point, like you said, I'm in this incredibly fortunate and honorable position of being able to do that at such a massive scale. And so if I can use the platform that I've been lucky enough to find myself in to get kids excited about education or get them exposed to new ideas that they wouldn't have been, privy to before, or, hey, I was fortunate enough to have really good teachers in my life. If I can get someone else to, who doesn't have good teachers to be like, oh, I get this concept now, that's huge. And think critically about the world around them and ask questions and like, or just, have a better day if they're having a crappy day. Like something as simple as that. And so that's really been kind of the guiding principle around a lot of what we do. Yeah. And now I get to do it at a very personal level on a very concentrated basis with this little potato, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah. I mean, with some of those people, like you don't know what the one thing is going to be that could steer them one way or the other.
True.
So it's really just about trying to make a positive impact wherever you can, because you don't know if there is that person that's looking for that one thing.
And it's interesting too, and it's a bit scary, right? Like the internet's in this really weird period right now where the stuff that is, negative and dramatic and, definitely like not the positive news stories are the things that get the most visibility.
Sure.
That get the reshares, that get the retweets, that get people talking, right? And to me, it creates this kind of self-perpetuating cycle of this thing got numbers matter, so I need to do more of this thing to get more numbers. Yes. Like when you boil it down, right? That's why the news doesn't cover the happy-go-lucky stories of like woman saves dog, or like neighbors helped each other, but instead it's like so-and-so killed such and such, and like,
woman saves dog. It's somebody was telling me about this woman was like playing with her dogs, and the dogs just snapped and they ripped her arm off.
Oh,
and it's
yeah,
like
the
it's like
two
yeah,
boxers.
that's
The
well,
two
she
boxers.
also died, so it's really
Yeah,
not
well,
good to
that's
laugh.
a rough story.
But that's the story that you hear. You don't hear like woman saves a group of puppies. Yay!
Yeah.
It's no, dogs flipped out and killed their owner.
And this
Right.
is why you shouldn't have a boxer breed. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, come on.
Right, and then there's the push of like all boxers are violent,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
so all boxers must be
negative
purged
twist.
from the world, and because everything has to be such an extreme these days to get the headline clicks, to get the reshares, whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
Now all of a sudden it has to be the best or the worst ever.
Mm-hmm.
Even stupid stuff too, like movies.
Hmm.
Even with movies, it's like. This broke box. It's like every movie that gets released nowadays breaks a box office record. It's like, did they really? Is that true? But
Do they? wonder.
it's like every new movie, but it's one of those
Yeah.
things where it's like I think it's all about how you frame what you're comparing it against, like box
Sure.
office record against whatever.
Yeah.
The internet for the longest time was like, we need to create algorithms that keep people using our platform,
Yeah.
right? We need to create a system where people are encouraged to like watch videos on our service or, watch news on Twitter and talk about news on Twitter or like post their personal photos on Facebook or whatever. And they were successful at it. Congratulations, internet, you did it. There's like 5 giant companies now, and people are addicted to their phones. No one thought about the ramifications of what that would do to how humans interact, how they behave, how they perceive the world.
I would
right?
wake up and my routine was I would wake up, I'd grab my phone, turn off my alarm, go to Twitter, go
Yep.
to Twitter Moments, and then just scroll through all the news.
Yep.
And like I started finding, and this probably happened like right after the 2016 election. I would find that I'd open up Twitter and just like it would just. I started like getting anxiety in the morning. I would wake up and I'd just read all this news,
Yeah,
and it was
can't
not really
do
the
that.
kind of thing you'd really want to wake up to. And I realized like I think maybe a year ago I stopped doing that. And then I went to open up my phone this morning and I was like, oh no, not gonna do that.
It does. It makes a big difference. And I know, like I said, it relates to the internet. And certainly the internet has made, and phones and stuff have made it exactly that. Like I reach for my phone in the morning and I'm immediately put into a bad, negative mood about the state of the world because of whatever the news story is. But even before that, like TV, if you look at the way Americans frame their news stories versus the way international coverage happens, they could be covering completely different things, and you would not know it, right? Like in America, it's like massive outrage in Egypt as people charged the capital in order to like get governmental change. We were in Egypt around time of like a big government upheaval. Actually, it was our honeymoon, Steph and I's honeymoon, and it was the first time that it really hit home for us. So that's how this situation was being covered in the U.S. Like, crowds rallying against the government and protesting, and like they're angry in the streets. We literally go to Egypt, and it was like one square block that contained like people who were upset, and then like a couple of protesters holding signs with like a hot dog stand across from like the Capitol building.
Yeah.
But to the way America frames it, it's like city on fire when it's not. They're like on fire for their like red hot dog next door. Like that's it was just wild.
It is nice though. Whenever I go home, and I stay at my parents' place in Sacramento, they still get the newspaper. And it's so lovely just reading local news.
Oh my gosh, right?
Because it's not all like garbage. It's like, oh, they're building a road here or whatever. Like, and it's just so nice to like not just read like oh, these people died and like this government's being overthrown and blah 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 blah. It's just like here's a thing going on in the neighborhood.
Right.
That's the thing, though. Like, the internet has brought in, like, it's not like, I'm sure, like, a lot of things have gotten worse over time, but it's, like, also, we are just seeing it all a lot more. Like, before we had the internet and it was just press and stuff, a lot of stuff wasn't as covered, and a lot of, like, you just didn't know as much about what was happening.
Sure.
So it's, like, now the world can seem like it's so much worse, and it is. There's a lot of bad stuff. There is, but it can feel a lot worse because we're seeing it all happen at once. Whereas
I totally agree.
past.
I honestly don't think that the world is any worse than it was 10 years ago or 15 years ago or 20 years ago. Like, it's just the fact that we are so attuned to every bad thing that happens. Like, I mean, gosh, like, can you imagine if we had the kind of press that we do now back in like World War II?
Oh my gosh.
When like atrocities were being committed everywhere. It wasn't just in just in Germany. Like there were terrible things happening everywhere.
Yeah.
But it was also funny because like Japan, they had this theory that they could put these bombs on balloons, and then the airstream would take or the jet stream, whatever, would take the balloons over to the U.S. and the bombs would then drop on cities in the U.S. So they did one test, I think.
I think I saw this in the Hunger Games. Right? I think the Hunger Games Part 3 did this.
Really?
Yeah.
Gosh.
So they flew these balloons, and it was not that successful, but some bombs did land in like the forests in like Oregon or something.
Okay.
And they didn't, I think it hit maybe like one house or something. I don't think anybody died. I think some kid died because they found unexploded ordnance. They walked up to it and exploded or something. But either way, it wasn't that successful. But because the government at that time had such a grip on the press, they actually squashed the stories because they said like, oh, this will be bad for our country if we put this story out. So they actually squashed all the stories. Japan never heard any news about it, so they just considered it a complete failure. So they never did it again.
Well, and again, going back to like the whole, going back to me and like why I do the channels and this idea of like making the world a better place and stuff. One of the things that I'm always really passionate about and why the whole theory thing is so important to me is, like you just said, that news never got out. Mm-hmm. That story didn't come out until just recently, right? And I think a lot of people take what they're presented with by the world, by press, by news media, whatever, at face value.
Sure.
And don't actually question, why are we being told this? What is the agenda necessarily behind it? And like who stands to profit off of these stories? Like I think a lot of us have this like idea of like we want other people to just be naturally helpful, be naturally like informative, and hey, your job is to deliver me information and you will deliver it as effectively and neutrally, I guess, as possible. But it's one of those things that that's not true in the slightest, right? And so for us, like, we're doing it on a very minor basis as far as like, is your favorite hero a villain? Yes. Even though like, you're cherry picking ideas, just like but it's that idea of look at it from a different perspective.
Yep.
Ask the question of not just like, this guy's the hero, but are they actually behaving like the hero?
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough to have a dad who, oh man, we're going back to father figure. This is great. Look, there's a through line in this.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to have a father who inspired that sort of curiosity in me and this idea of, do the research for yourself. Yes, take what people are telling you, but also look beyond that and like look at, who's telling the story, why, what are the actual facts behind things rather than, someone else putting their perspective on it.
I think critical thinking is something that they really need to teach more in schools.
Yeah.
Because especially in this day and age, like it's so easy to just believe something that somebody's just putting out there without considering their agenda. Yeah. Like at the gym I work out at, it's this really fun thing where they have 3 channels on the TV. One's ESPN.
Yep.
And then the other 2 are Fox News and CNN right next to each other.
It's great.
And it's fun because I'll just be on the treadmill and be like, all right, what are the agendas today? Right. Okay, so CNN's just talking about Trump and Fox News is talking about Hillary still? It's like, it's really funny because you see like they both clearly have agendas.
Right.
And you need to, there is still news there, but you need to fish through that agenda and parse out what true information there is.
Right. It's funny that you have those on playing at your gym.
It's infuriating.
At my gym, it's only Food Network. Without it's no exaggeration. Like
wow.
We have like the one that is we have one that's just general sports. You have one that is general news, and then you have one that is actual Food Network, and so it's like
evil.
Chopped or recipes. And so since I work
out harder,
right? So I'm working out Saturday morning and watching like the Pioneer woman in her kitchen, frying up some butter, and I'm like, yes, please.
Wow,
that's so evil.
Yeah,
I just think it's so like TV, phones. It's just images going at your face. Like when you're scrolling through Twitter, you see something, you usually a lot of people just believe it and move on. I think I saw a video on Twitter the other day where people were like, oh, Trump forgot he didn't have his toupee on at this thing. And so he like, it's a video where he takes off his hat and he goes, my hair is a mess. And he goes like this and he's completely bald.
Oh, that's cool.
But I'm pretty sure it was shopped.
Right.
Like
I believe that.
you could see his hand like go into the bald head. Like it was a little bit poorly done. But people, like hundreds of thousands of people,
Sure.
Millions of views, hundreds of thousands of likes, and they're commenting like, "Oh my God, I can't believe that's so dumb," and they will move on, never knowing the truth. Right. And this is a little touchy. Remember the kids with the MAGA hats and the Native Americans who came up.
Yeah.
A lot of people
Which, by the way, Fox News is still talking about that.
The original story.
Gets clicks.
The original story was that these kids were they came up to the Native Americans and got into the Native Americans' face. But there's actually then later footage of the Native Americans coming up to the kids and like doing the music in front of them. Like it was like a complete flip of what the original story was.
Yeah, it wasn't that guy, but it was like a couple other guys that might have been in some group related or something.
I think the kids were like on a school trip and were like waiting for their bus. It was like something weird like that, and the kids were like super confused.
But it's just two sides, and you can see that, and you can witness that
You'll see
on the
side.
CNN Fox News thing.
Yeah, if you're at that gym,
and
you see them side by side.
And it's one of those things that, like, you brought up a lot of stuff, which is scary because first off, the camera is a selective frame, right? And you can decide what to include or not include, and what you keep outside of the guidelines, what you cut out, what you edit, And I think that's one thing that, first off, people just don't think about that, right? Like here in Hollywood, the Oscars are held at this beautiful venue, super rich, super luxurious. It's happening in front of a Sunglass Hut. It's a cheesy rundown strip mall.
It's happening in the worst place in LA that you do not want to go to. It smells like piss.
Yeah.
There's a dirty Spider-Man hanging out outside trying to get your money.
Not Tom Holland. It's not Tom Holland.
Right. No, a dirty Spider-Man. No, but it is. But again, because the camera shows this part of the frame and not this part of the frame, they're just showing you what you want to see. And I think that idea of the storyteller is subjective is, again, to that idea of like we need to teach people the essence of what it is to consume media, like what is being kept in, what is not, what's being edited out. And then add to that the complicating factor of exactly what you said, CGI and the ability to replicate faces.
Yep.
Yeah,
and
Shane
like
Ross into that conspiracy video on that.
Right, and that technology exists.
Yeah.
This idea of being able to take so many different images of a person's face and replicate that person talking and saying stuff, because we're in this culture of there's so much footage of, especially public figures out there and footage of them saying every word possible that you can cobble together these really lifelike facsimiles. So not only are humans just bad at being able to process this stuff, add to it, you have people who are really good at being able to kind of like seed out false information. Yeah. And then the capstone of it all, right, is the idea that because of how fast the internet goes and how quickly we're on to the next news story, the next big trend, what's the trend today, what's the new meme, whatever, there is no sense of let's look back at what we were told and analyze what the reality was and what it meant, right? And it's always we need to be the first to get the headline. We need to be the first to get the headline, move on to the next thing. There's never this idea of like, wait, what did we believe versus what was real and what came, like, what was the impact of that? And is that something that we should be incentivizing or, like, hey, maybe this is a bad idea moving forward? You never have that retrospective analysis. And so as a result, a lot of these problems just continue to perpetuate and don't get solved.
Well, because if you take any time to think, hey, should I post this? Well, then you're too late. Somebody else beat you to the punch.
And that's the thing, people, with what you're saying earlier about negativity being so much more eye-catching and tasty for news people to touch on, it's like, that's why it sucks, like the word feminism is like seen by a lot of people as a negative thing because there's an abuser of every movement that will do a terrible thing and claim they're a part of this group, and then everyone's like, oh, that group's terrible because that's all that they've seen from that group or whatever, and so then they move on and they don't do the research or question everything. Like I think I learned from the internet like, luckily I was exposed to the right stuff at the right time, that I was taught to question everything and not just let, like you said, face value and move on.
You know, with all the stuff that went down with mostly our parents using Facebook, I think there probably will be classes taught on ways to break down information that you're seeing on social media, because it is a huge problem, and it's propaganda. It's getting people to think a certain way, and it's the new sort of like war.
Yeah, it's tough too, because a lot of times the truth behind a situation doesn't fit into 140 characters. It doesn't fit into or what 240?
240 now? 240
at this point. Like,
wow, 2008.
Right, I know, but it does. You know, it's not tweetable. It's not the most. It's not the best. It's not the worst. It's a complicated situation that has many nuanced sides, and you're going to have to stop and read and think critically about research. How and that just doesn't work in this day and age of let me hit the retweet button. Let me write in all caps and say how offended I am.
You go to a Twitter moment and you read the tweet, and then they have a tweet to the actual article, and nobody clicks the article. They just want to read what everyone's saying at face value, what is basically going on, and it could be accurate or not.
Right, and that's the thing, right? Is like, and we see it all the time in small scale with our videos, right? If I make a factual inaccuracy, you know, and say something wrong in one of my videos, and sometimes that happens.
It happens.
When you're covering the 60-year history of Mario or whatever, and I'm sure someone in the comments here will be like, it's not actually 60 years of Mario. But it's one of those things where, like, if you make a mistake, that's out there, and no amount of me in the comments being like, fixing it, no one's going to see that.
Yeah, exactly.
And even, like, people are just going to get their information from, like, oh, he purposely included this in or whatever. You know, for instance, we had a video where we talked about the tragic death of one of our editors. And, you know, we purposely kept that demonetized in honor of him. It's not something that you should be making money off of.
Sure.
But, you know, YouTube naturally has to run banner ad. Like, that is just one of the things that you cannot turn off. But it was one of those things where people are like, oh, you're trying to monetize this horrific event. It's like, no, like, one, that is so hurtful, like, to have people think that, because I would never want to do that. But then two, it's like no amount of me telling that story out there is going to translate to people, because to a lot of people, like, they made up their mind or they think they have the story right.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where, like, it just self-perpetuates, and it's tough. It's a weird time.
Yeah.
The internet's in this weird inflection point. It's kind of scary.
Yeah. They'll leave a comment of something like, you did that thing wrong. I can't believe you did that. And then they leave. Some of them don't even go back and check the replies if they're, like, actually being corrected. And they'll go on living and maybe telling other people. You never know.
I got a little taste of that talking about Michael Jackson in the last podcast.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. The comments are very split on that.
Yeah. Well, actually, on YouTube, it was a lot of people saying, like, yeah, he did it. And then I went to my Twitter mentions, and some people with Michael Jackson avatars were railing on me pretty hard. And I was like, yeah, I expected that.
Ooh, look at how controversial you are, Ian.
Yeah.
And you have this, like, devil may care at. You're like, bring it on, internet.
Well, I mean, it's because Keith is a huge Michael Jackson fan, and look, I'm not trying to change anyone's minds, and I just wanted to have a conversation about it because he's a big Michael Jackson fan, and yeah, I don't know, I felt like it was a good thing to talk about.
But that's it right there, and see that again, like, that's the thing that I think a lot of people are afraid of or just resistant to do these days, is have a conversation.
Yeah,
Like, because we don't have all the facts, but then also the facts aren't. The facts relating to Michael Jackson are so muddled,
of course,
and then twisted by both sides to fit their narrative. So wherever people are getting information, like people keep reposting this meme of, like, all the facts of Michael Jackson. And I'm like, okay, but I can't take 2 days to research every single fact on here to make sure it's right. So either I'm going to accept it at face value or ignore it. You know.
Well, and I think that's, again, like, that's why conversations are so important, because people are resistant to do it, because if all of a sudden I admit that I'm wrong, or, like, it exposes me to either being wrong or being misinformed or underinformed. And to your point of this idea of I don't have 2 days to do all the research, if you have enough conversations with enough people, it's like, okay, I have a general understanding now of all these different perspectives, all these different like sources of facts from people who, maybe didn't read the 2 days worth of information on it, but at least like know bits and pieces, and you can put that together into like, hey, I have a much better informed position on this as a result.
The thing to take away from it is don't touch kids. Like whether or not he did it, like let's talk, like let's have a conversation about like grooming children and abusing children and like what that is. Like whether he did it or not, we're having the conversation now, and we know the signs. And one of the big things that they talk about in the documentary, I don't want to go too far into it, but like is the child abuse. It's not necessarily like the things that those victims had to wrestle with in their minds was like, I still love him, so I don't know. So it's like everyone thinks like, oh, it's something where they're abused and they're it was a violent thing. It's like not necessarily, but it's still not okay.
Right. Yeah. That they're wrecked for life.
Yeah.
When that isn't the case. Right. Because it's happening at such an early age, the signs are different than what like you would assume or what the media portrays, right? Like you see, it's not someone who's like broken or has mental issues. I mean, sometimes they are and sometimes they do, but a lot of times it is. It's I have this complicated relationship with this person and I don't know how to process it, and to the outside world, you might not think that this happened to me, but it very likely could have.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the important thing is when you're having those conversations, say the Michael Jackson thing, it's like we will never know the exact truth. We will never know. But I think people have to like sort out their priorities when they're in those arguments or discussions of it's like, okay, what's the real issue here and why does this matter?
Yeah.
And like because it's not about like who's right and who's wrong. It shouldn't be about that. It should be like big picture, like what really matters, like why are we arguing about this and what's more important.
And what can we take from it?
Yeah.
I think the bigger argument though is do you think Aladdin's going to be good?
Here he goes. Here he goes.
Well, I do have a channel dedicated to film.
Ooh.
So I am aware of this sort of thing. I gotta say, I think it's gonna be good.
Yeah,
I do. I think it's gonna be better than the Lion King movie, quite honestly. Yeah.
No, I don't think that's a bad opinion.
Is that a controversial opinion? Is that my hot take?
I think so, because I'm more apt to watch something with humans talking than like weird kind of live action. I haven't quite seen. They haven't shown like the lions talking yet because I think it's gonna be really freaking weird.
I think there's a reason you haven't seen the lions.
Totally. So just like we're saying, choosing what we see.
Yep. I think that. So here's my take on Aladdin. First off, is I think I'm bummed out about Jafar. I think that they miscast Jafar.
So sexy.
He's sexy, but he doesn't like. If you're thinking Jafar, like who's such an iconic, cartoonish Disney villain.
Yeah.
I think, say what you will about the casting, and he might be great in the role, just vocally, he doesn't have the like vocal, like seductive, deep, like I want to get wrapped up in his voice that Jafar as a character who is like seducing everyone around him and kind of mind controlling him has. So like that's my one ding on Aladdin. Yeah. But if you look at all the spectacle that they've shown of it, I think Will Smith, like, he's in a thankless role of having to remake just an iconic like one of the best performances period in a movie. Like it was just such a perfect matching of character to personality when it was Robin Williams. Yeah. I think Will Smith is one of the best people to do kind of like a fresh take on the journey or on the genie. So I think he'll be good, and it's base and I was worried because I'm like, oh, they're just recreating the movie, but it seems like the genie is more like it's Hitch. Yeah. It looks like Hitch.
Dude, that's what we were saying.
It's totally Hitch.
We're saying it's literally Hitch.
It is, where in Hitch, basically Will Smith is like the romance consultant who's like, hey, lame white dude, I'm going to teach you how to get the girl. And here it seems like it's Aladdin but Hitch, where it's the genie being like, hey, Aladdin, street rat, let me show you how to get the girl, which, you know, it's a different take. I don't think it's a bad one. I think it's interesting.
I like that. I feel like Will Smith put in his contract that he can't be blue the entire time because when he did Suicide Squad, his character Deadshot has like a full-on mask. And then in Suicide Squad, like, it doesn't have the mask. He's like, no, I just want the eye thing, and that's it, right? It doesn't have like a little. I didn't watch that movie.
Well,
but
I also wonder if, because again, think about who's telling the story. Think about how these things happen, right? I think things get leaked out. If you're a movie studio and things get leaked out onto the internet, you see how the audience responds. The stuff that you're kind of questioning, and you double back and you're like, okay, well, let's rework this before we release the big trailer. And so here, I think there probably was a world where the genie might have been blue the entire time, but it's an easy CGI thing to fix, right? And so now all of a sudden, if the internet's making fun of Will Smith for being kind of like comedically blue the entire time, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, look, here's a trailer where he's not blue the whole time. Like, now all of a sudden you've gotten people to be like, okay, I'm not as afraid of this anymore. I think it's the same reason why the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, you haven't seen Sonic's face yet, and then when you saw Sonic's face, because it did leak out.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, but right? So it leaked out.
it's not great.
Leaked, and it's not great. And the internet's been kind of like, And so I'm wondering if this, like, if it had been great, I bet you would have seen a Sonic trailer, like, shortly thereafter.
I'm less worried about his face and more worried about his legs. Like, there's something really weird. There's something really weird about Sonic's legs.
Being so hairy, it's uncomfortable.
I just love that poster where it's like he like took the shot and he's like man spreading on top of the bridge. And then if you zoom in on the bridge, like right in between his crotch, like he wrote Sonic was here.
So bad.
Like with W-U-Z.
It's really rough.
It's 1996.
It's like,
again.
damn, okay.
It's period appropriate.
Yeah.
True.
But yeah, I think so. Like a great example of this, I think, is Venom, right? Where Venom had this leak of the like moment of Venom, like this is Venom and his tongue, and people are like, oh, look at the leak, how's he look? And the internet loved it, right? The internet was like, I approve that this is what my Venom should look like. Great, awesome. The response was positive, and then like within like 24, 48 hours, you have a trailer for Venom, right? I would assume that if the internet was like, oh, his tongue's too stupid, or like this looks too, this isn't the Venom I'm looking for. I want a more traditional whatever. I think you would have probably seen a delay there, and they might have like gone back and reworked things to make it happen. Again, that's just a conspiracy theory.
I love it.
But
so cool.
But Lion King, I think that the reason why you're seeing such iconic moments from the film, but also like the animals not talking and
it's
this
just
and that.
vignettes. Yeah.
I think I also wouldn't be surprised if that's the reason why Aladdin is coming out this year. Because it's weird for them to have two live-action remakes of such two hugely iconic franchises for them coming out months apart. And say what you will about like
it's months apart.
I mean, they're both coming out this year.
Whoa.
Which is right.
That's weird.
Which I didn't realize until like I saw both trailers, and they're both coming out so close together.
Yeah.
Like I could see them doing one a year, but these are coming
like
out.
They're blowing their wad. Like
totally.
It's like, is that a weird
blowing
euphemism?
Your load, I think. Or is
Well,
it wad
that's
or load?
different.
Wad is blowing through money.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I don't know my euphemisms then.
They're blowing something.
It seems like they're just kind of like, because they only have so many things to remake in live action, and it seems to me Lion King was probably the best animated movie they ever made.
Sure.
But maybe that's just because I grew up in the '90s. But just a '90s kid. What can I say?
Yeah.
Right. And you're not the type to respond to princesses.
Exactly.
Dude.
Yeah, I don't want to see women get empowered. Like, screw that. I want to see lions each other up. Yeah.
And see, now we can cut that line out of this podcast.
Exactly.
And there it is. Ian from Smosh says.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I will say when I saw the shot of the wildebeest like going into the gorge, I was like,
Oh
like
my
I
gosh.
like it. Ugh.
Oh yeah.
I felt it, man.
See, for the Aladdin trailer, like when I saw the leaked images of Genie or whatever, I was like, oh no, this is I'm worried. But then the trailer came out, and it's like the first half I wasn't super interested. I mean, but then when Will Smith comes in and he's like being funny and stuff.
Yeah.
But then when the music picked up, And I got chills, like, because you forget, like, an animated movie, it has a vision of what, like, image you have, and then in your memory you see that world, that universe. But when live action, like, they really filled it all in with, like, beautiful imagery and the shots of, like, the chase and everything. You're like, oh my gosh, there's so much I didn't imagine in my head that is going to be there.
I haven't seen any of the live action Disney movies yet because I just don't care.
Oh, well, Maleficent was incredible.
Maleficent is surprisingly good.
Okay. Another one.
But the
Yeah, I was surprised by that. I'm like, whoa, I didn't realize that they were actually doing it, right? I thought the story seems fairly complete at this point. I don't know what they're doing with that. Is it a prequel?
I don't know.
I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah.
But with Aladdin, it was interesting that the songs that, you know, Aladdin and Jasmine are singing don't sound any different from the original.
Yeah.
But then like, you know, they're gonna have to do something different with Will Smith because like, you ain't never had a friend like me. And it's like threw a little like Fresh Prince in there. I'm like, okay,
like me.
Like, because obviously you're not gonna do like Robin Williams.
Right.
Like,
Oh my gosh,
Also,
so
I
good.
didn't know. Okay, am I just stupid for not realizing that? Like in The Lion King, I thought the kids were the ones like the Simba.
Yeah.
And
I
Nala.
thought Simba and Nala. I thought that they were the ones that were actually singing the songs. I didn't realize that they had like other
vocal.
singers do their songs for them.
yeah.
I just assumed like Jonathan Taylor Thomas just had a great voice. I was like, wow, good for him.
Right.
So maybe I'm just an idiot.
I don't think you're dumb.
Okay,
By-
thank you.
Again,
Thank you.
Because why would you know? Why would you? Why would you? It's
They
not like the
fooled
movie's
me.
beating you over the head with like, this is a new person.
Yeah.
You know,
It
it's
was-
being portrayed as all one character. It's all about the framing.
Yeah,
It's all-
and we weren't. I feel like back then it wasn't like a common knowledge of behind the scenes stuff. Like it wasn't like everybody knew about like that. Like because I feel like nowadays like you kind of hear a little bit more of like what goes on in production behind the scenes. Like we instantly see the images of Beauty and the Beast when they show the graphics of like how they made Beast with the suit and everything. Like I feel like that stuff wasn't accessible back then when the Lion King was
Sure,
out.
yeah.
Tell you what though, like I'm all aboard that practice. Quite honestly, like
Interesting.
I love the idea of actually getting like in my ideal world, you just get someone who's good for the role and all that role entails coming from the theater world.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many talented like Broadway actors and like, you know, little known personalities who would be perfect for these roles. And
Well, I
who have
guess
been
that's
playing-
what they did with Frozen. Like they got, as we call her, Adele Dazeem.
Yeah, Adele Dazeem. Absolutely. Who is one of the best singers.
But nobody
out there.
knows who she wasn't selling the movie,
Right.
Because nobody knows who she is.
Right. She just is a phenomenal performer who has a legit background in vocal performance and theatrical acting, who can crush it in a character. Like that's the thing. And that's the thing that kills me about all of these remakes is like, and that's the reason why I really didn't like the Beauty and the Beast is
I didn't like
because
it either.
you know, say I love Emma Watson, great, fantastic. Camera dead? Maybe.
What's that?
Is
Oh,
that your timer?
that's my timer.
Oh.
Every time he doesn't know where the timer's coming from.
I like
I
that.
forgot. I'm sorry.
No, you're great. I just think it's funny.
I'm
that-
sorry. That totally interrupted you.
No,
It's
no,
okay.
no.
We can keep talking.
But anyway, so like I wasn't a big fan of Beauty
yeah,
and the
but you
Beast.
love Emma Watson.
Yeah, I'd say I love Emma Watson. Great, fantastic. But the thing is, like, she can't sing the role like someone who has actually been trained and doing it for years to sing the role.
Yeah.
And sure, she might help put butts in seats, maybe, but it's one of those things that like if you just have good performers doing a good job and just like kicking butt, like it's gonna be great. And so for me, the thing that kills all of these live action remakes is when all of a sudden like great, I'm immersed in this world, I love what's going on, and then like their vocal performance hits and it's like stretch for those notes or like clearly auto-tuned or anything like that. And so I'd rather them dub over someone else who actually can sing like they did with The Lion King in the early days. Or, you know, like I said, in the ideal world, just cast a no-name actor, give them a chance to shine.
I feel like they'll be happy that they did
Oh,
at
they're
the
gonna
end of the day.
Yeah, of course.
it'll
Because
make a better product, but it doesn't
Yeah.
sell the product.
Well, but doesn't it? Because here all of a sudden, if you're casting right, again, like you get a chance to see the person perform. It's not like, okay, you're on the movie set, hopefully this guy is good. No, you've
Yeah.
presumably seen them read for the role, interact with everyone. That is the casting process,
Yeah.
you know,
I
and
feel
sure.
like it's probably easier with an animated movie because you're not seeing that person.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
not like, who the hell is this?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't even realize half the people in animated movies. I was like, wait, that was that major celebrity? Like,
Right.
I don't care really.
Right.
Like, occasionally I'll be like, oh, cool, like that person. But then they have a cast of like 20 celebrities.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm like,
for Lion King.
wait, Keegan-Michael Key was in this? Like, what?
Right, exactly.
Brad Pitt? What?
But it's one of those things that to me, you know, yeah, they might not help put butts in seats, so maybe have stunt casting for like one person there or whatever. Like, oh, I can't believe The Rock, because it's always The Rock. Can't believe The Rock's in there.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
always The Rock, and he'll be
Yeah.
glad to do it. He'll cash that paycheck as long
Oh, yeah.
the day's long. But the thing is, you know, fill it with a bunch of other people who are great, and the movie sells itself. Did these original stories become so popular because they were stunt casted? No, it's because they tell really emotional tales that are well told. The music is great and they're well performed.
Yeah.
And so, you know, would I rather see, you know, Aladdin starring, you know, someone that I recognize, or Aladdin just being performed the
Yeah.
heck out of people who are glad to be there, are excited to do it, and can fill the role? And like, to me, like, that's, I just love good stories.
Yeah.
And if you're telling me the best story possible, and great, if that person is the best for that role, awesome. I'm all
Yeah.
aboard. But yeah.
I guess it's when they advertise those movies, and they want to sell those movies, it's at face value, where you see big famous person.
Yep.
That's how they're trying to get the money right now, not in the long run. What was the better decision?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Right? Like you see those rolling lists of animated movie credits, like at the end of the trailer, like you said, Keegan-Michael Key, and it's like
Zendaya's Michi.
and it almost makes me roll my eyes, because it's like, clearly you don't have enough faith in the trailer that you created and in the story that you're telling to sell me on just the premise alone. And so instead, you're trying to impress me with all this star power. And it's like, Beyonce's in it. And it's like, I don't care if Beyonce's in it.
Well, animated movies, I was reading something, they were saying animated movies are some of the only places where you can still tell an original story and get people to actually get their butts in movie theater seats. Because nowadays it's just about franchises and,
Sure.
and reboots, and people will go and see those. But to see an original movie in the theater is very rare unless it's an animated movie.
Or get out, like, I think, again, like, look at what Blumhouse has been able to do.
Yeah.
Blumhouse,
But those are all horrors.
I mean, they're horror.
and they're low budget. They're
Great.
very low budget.
Good. Tell a good story with a low budget. Like, you don't need everything to be a CGI masterpiece.
Right.
Good story, like, theater is built on this idea of telling good stories, right? And, you know, with lower budgets than movies, certainly. And film, really, just stick a camera around. And, like, yeah, there's more cost because you got to set up lights and this and that. I think a lot. I think, here's my other hot take. I think the movie industry just wastes egregious amounts of money on, like, needless excess. Like, don't even get me started on that. But it is one of those things where the idea of, like, telling a good story, like, no matter what your budget is, no matter what your genre, those exist. Certain genres are going to cost more, superhero, action movie, certainly.
Yeah. Right.
But, like, if you're telling a drama or a, you know, like, Get Out, yeah, you're right. Horror is kind of maybe has an easier opportunity to do it. I don't know. I'm a firm believer of a lot of times good content will just disseminate out there because, you know, you have to start somewhere and it creates a groundswell.
Sure.
True.
And now, you know, because of the success of Get Out, which started slow and then built, people are super excited for us.
I am.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
And
Hell yeah.
I'm
And I
going to be
hate
right
horror
there.
movies.
Right.
I'm going to see
can't.
that. We're seeing it opening night.
Yeah, our whole like office group is gonna go see it together.
Yeah.
It
We're getting
looks
the
intense.
whole Smosh fam. We're all going to go see it.
That's
super fun.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna like have someone next to me and I'm like, just so you know, I'm gonna break your arm. I'm scared.
Yeah, I'm pretty spooked for that movie.
Spooked and stoked.
Yeah.
Spoked.
Spoked.
Yo, bro, I'm freaking spoked.
Shoot, dude, we're spoked.
Shoot, dude. Sorry. We're trying to make this
No,
or maybe
no,
I'm trying
we're
to make
not.
this
It's
no, we're
a
not.
thing. It's a thing.
It's a
Ian
thing.
randomly started like he said it one day and I was like, oh, that's from something, right? And he's like, no, I just said it. He goes, shoot, dude.
I don't know.
Sounds like something that would come out of like,
Sounds like a meme.
dude, where's my car? Or something, right? Like, shoot, dude.
Shoot, dude.
I like that we, bookended with comedy. Like in the middle, we got really hot and heavy with the discussions.
All right, we were pretty heavy from the get-go.
That is true, actually. I might be misremembering the beginning of this whole thing.
Well, before we go, is there anything you want to tell people about? Anything you're doing? Anything you want to shout out? I didn't even mention it. You're our first ever guest.
Really?
I mean, you have only had 5 episodes of this
but
podcast.
still.
So it would have been hard for me to have squeezed myself into those first 4 while you're establishing the format.
And still trying to.
Yeah, first ever guest.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh, wait. I'm not your first ever guest, though.
Guest.
Here I am being a smart aleck about it. I'm your first guest ever, period?
Yeah.
Ever, period.
It's all been Smosh family.
I guess I had. I feel so bad that I was making fun of you
No,
then.
that was funny.
I thought you were saying like, congratulations, Matt. This is your first time on the SmoshCast. I'm
No.
like, yeah, no doubt, you guys. You've had 5
No,
episodes.
you were a very
have you on
first
every
guest.
episode.
First guest. Oh, that's awesome. That is a huge honor.
Well, I thought you might be a good first person.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Did we cover the topics that you wanted to cover?
It doesn't matter.
That is a clear no.
It really doesn't.
Shoot.
There's no topics. I have this kind of list of things to possibly
Sometimes
talk
we
about.
won't touch on any
but
of
I
them,
don't
like-
Throw all of this away so Ian can create the show that he envisioned. I don't want to let you down as your first guest.
No, this is
no,
great.
no,
It's
no.
all about having a good time and chatting with your buddies.
That is right.
Is that the tagline?
Can it be?
Smoshcast. Having a good time and chatting with your buddies.
Shoot, dude.
Shoot, dude. Have that good time.
Well, thank you so much, MatPat.
Thank you.
And give
Thank
my
you,
best
guys.
to Stephanie.
I will,
Yes,
absolutely.
And the baby potato.
And the baby potato.
Yeah. He will be glad to receive. Next time, maybe next time. Yeah. This one's for you, buddy.
That was a good one.
I can't go that high. No,
Ew.
that's nope. I don't want to end this podcast with the.
No, he likes to end it with smacking noises
Yeah.
instead.
I like to do that.
Smacking
It's
noises.
so gross. I think we should nip
I'm
that
kind
in
of
the bud.
I'm kind of grossed out by just
Yeah.
the phrase smacking noises.
Yeah.
What sort
With
of
his mouth.
like lip smacks?
Yeah, lip smacking.
You know
Please
that
don't
people-
do
Some
it,
water.
please.
I gotta get some water.
You know that people have like a
hate
built-in aversion to this, right?
Yeah, I don't care.
I just need to, please.
Ah!
Yeah,
I have a
let's do that.
built-in aversion to that.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I think it's great. I don't want lip smacking sounds in this podcast anymore.
What's that? It's called like something starts with an A. Something phobia.
Something like that.
Stephanie has
People
it.
got upset about the Domino's video because we added chewing
We
sounds.
added a lot.
A lot of people were
Yeah.
very upset. We should, yeah.
Make sure you guys subscribe to the pod on all of the podcast things that are available.
Any listening apps, right?
Spotify, iTunes. There's a whole bunch of other. What's another one? That
SoundCloud.
I don't think we're on SoundCloud.
Well
We
then,
should.
don't do it on. This is why you don't have the guest. Say the closing line.
Be sure to check us out on the YouTube if you're not watching us on the SmoshCast YouTube.
SmoshCast.
We upload on Fridays. The pod comes out on the Wednesdays, uncensored. And on YouTube, when I say you're just going to hear a bleep, so I'm sorry.
Are you censoring me right now?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Censored the whole thing. I love you guys so much.
Cool, man.
Smooth exit. Smooth exit. Thank you.
Thanks again for coming.
My pleasure,
We love you.
guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the lip smacks. Ian.
Oh, goodbye. Goodbye.